All right. Welcome, welcome. Happy almost Friday. It is Autumn HQ again, back with our Horizons series with Tyler J. Rouse. She is also one of our volunteers for external partnerships and also works at Amazon as a community advisor. So appreciate you for joining us, Tyler. Can't wait to get started in our conversation. And with that, we are going ahead and just hop right on in.
Thanks, Isa.
No problem. So while we're getting kicked off here, started, I do want to share a little bit about Horizons, and so we can kind of channel what the conversation's about and help you guide yourselves to any questions or maybe chime in if you have anything you'd like to share. But also, don't forget to use our chat feature under the video. If you have any questions, we'll definitely look over and make sure we answer those when they arise. So, as you know, I am the program director of the Austin Urban Technology Movement. Um, been with Autumn HQ for a very long time, and really the point of my job is to make sure that all of the people who are going through our program, they're called Automites, that they are indeed guided through, provided with any knowledge that they need in terms of, focusing on the different cohorts or courses they would like to have started. And even on the other side, when it comes to employment, making sure that they're connected with all of our employer partners and sharing their showcasing themselves in that way. So another thing I like to do, well, the point of Autumn HQ is to make sure we are alleviating ourselves of the issue of having a lack of representation in tech. Overwhelmingly, the Black and Hispanic population is not represented well in the technology field or the industry, not only as employees but also as leaders. And
Mhm.
so we realized in order to help alleviate that problem is we got to show people what these goals, what these roles look like. Meet a person who's actually in some of these roles to actually make that vision or dream come true by knowing somebody and communicating with them possibly as a mentor or learning, how they got into their role. And so with that, we created Horizons. And that gives a person an automite, even if they're not an automite yet, they want to join, one of events like this, the opportunity to join in on conversations, learn about the career paths that a person may have experienced. Some people have gotten a 4-year degree in computer science and went on to be a software engineer. Some people started off as a chef and ended up starting their own media company. It all it all has a lot of different various pathways into the tech space, but we want to make sure we're showing that, and people like Tyler is here to explain their trajectory to the tech space and let you know that it is possible no matter where you're coming from. We don't want anybody to be cornered into the thought that only people who have a certain, caliber or degrees or certain experience, extended experience in tech, are the ones that are successful. That is a myth, and we
Mhm.
want to debunk that any chance we can. So, joining an event like this, having opportunity to touch on the topics that may resonate with you in terms of your career path, or maybe some things that you decide to change your mind on, or a person you may have met, all that can become part of the conversation that we have with Horizons today. And so, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tyler J. Rouse, our speaker for today.
Thank you, Isa. Look, it's my face. But nice to meet everyone. As Isa mentioned, I also volunteer with Autumn HQ as the external partnerships coordinator. Have been loving the journey. I've been with Autumn for about 6, 7 months now, so it's been amazing. Really love working with Michael and Isa and Clifford and Patty and everyone. So thank you for having me.
Awesome, and we love having you because we need any extra extensions of ourselves into the space is always helpful.
Yeah, so firstly, I just want to give a really brief overview of what I am currently doing in terms of my career and other hats. So, again, I am working at Amazon currently as a community advisor for our seller forums. And our seller forums are geared towards anyone that is selling on Amazon that has an actual professional selling account. So, really, really enjoying the work that I'm doing. I'll be creating a group very tailored experience for Black sellers within the seller forum. So I'm really, really excited about what that's shaping up to become. Some of the other things that I'm currently doing, I do lead communications for one of the ERGs that I'm a part of at Amazon. I am a freelance tech blogger. So I've been a freelance tech blogger, for about 2 years. And you'll understand why that is later. I already mentioned that I'm a volunteer, and I'm also getting my MED at the University of Florida for curriculum and instruction. So thanks. Very busy, got a lot going on, as you can see. And so I really want to get into, what are you saying, Issa?
No, I was talking, I was on mute, and I have to stop doing that. I did want to comment on, you do have a lot of things that are on your plate. And in terms of balancing that, before we get into, the weeds of things, how are you balancing your schedule? What is that like?
Wow. Okay. So that's a great question. I think 2 weeks ago, I actually had my first case of burnout, actually. So it's very funny that you mentioned that. Balancing my schedule, I live and die by my calendar, both my personal calendar and my work calendar. So it's very much like, if it's not on my calendar, it's kind of not getting done. That's just kind of how I roll at this point. Right. So I am very intentional about scheduling time for the activities that I need to do. I'm not going to lie, I do tend to procrastinate on some things, but that doesn't hinder the integrity of the actual work that I'm doing.
Gotcha. And you got that calendar piece is a major key for those who are trying to balance all these different, either if you're automatic, you're doing a cohort and you're still working and you have a family, that calendar can be, like you said, the life or death of you. So thanks for sharing that.
No problem.
So why are you with us today? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm here for a few reasons. Firstly, and Issa touched on this earlier when she was going through, the statistics around representation in tech, and that lack thereof. So I'm here because representation matters. I really want to be one of the faces that you see that got into tech very randomly, honestly, and I am non-technical as they come. So I really wanted to be in this space and really go through my journey because it has been a unique one. And then secondly, I told you all that I'm a tech blogger. I actually had an interview with Latasha Gillespie, who is the global head of DEI for Amazon Studios, a few months ago. And something that she said, a gem that she dropped, because she dropped a ton, was that tech can open the door to generational wealth. And that really resonated with me because as I've gone from, role to role, company to company, my salary has grown exponentially. Just remembering where I started from and what I'm currently making. I just don't know what other industry you're going to see that type of growth, monetary growth in. Plus, again, having like RSUs and stock and, having a 401k option, like all of those things are going to be able to set you up for the long term. So generational wealth, I want to really stress that. Another thing, giving back. So I consider myself to be an advocate for a lot of different types of people, but especially Black and Brown people. I am always doing what I can to amplify our voices in conversations and in the things that I'm doing. So being a mentor is something that I take very seriously. And again, like mentorship goes both ways. What I don't know, what I lack, I'm always looking to network with other people so that I can keep that conversation going, so that I can really flex that learn and be curious muscle that I have. And then lastly, transferable skills are key. I preach that a lot, especially when it comes to getting into tech, because I think a lot of people are kind of turned off to the fact that they think they have to get in by coding. Again, I have tried coding boot camps and I have not finished any of them. I can't get it. So I have a lot of skills in terms of communications and program management. And that's, well, that's not how I got into tech, but that's a reason why I've been able to stay in tech and pivot and do different things. So transferable skills are really important.
Would you add that, doing things that you like to do kind of also drives your interest in the tech space? 'Cause I know you're blogging.
Absolutely.
You've been doing blogging since I think I met you. You were,
Hmm.
for those who don't know, Tyler and I used to work together at Oracle. And that's how we met. Actually,
Yes,
Tyler,
we did.
Michael Ward Jr., our president, and Tyler and I used to work together, and we
Yeah.
were up there managing the ERG, the African American Business Leaders of Excellence ERG at
Yep.
Oracle. And she started a whole newsletter because she
Mhm.
is in her bag about writing and reading, and so that was her specialty. Has that carried its way through your career as well?
Absolutely. Being purpose driven. That is what I would say. I am very purpose driven again in that I'm trying to create access for Black and Brown people to get into tech, to learn more about tech, and just to really connect and foster relationships with each other inside of the tech field. Because as we know, DEI has three different pillars: diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I talk about a lot at work is that it's great that we are getting more of us in the door, but if you're not creating equitable opportunities to actually progress,
Mm-hmm.
like how are
Yeah.
you going to keep the talent? How are you going to keep us? So,
Right.
yeah.
There's a little quote, you probably heard of it, diversity is like being invited to the dance, and then equity is like, being invited to dance,
Yep.
and then invited to the party, and then invited to dance. And I added my own portion for inclusion. And then like inclusion is like taking turns with the music on the DJ,
That's what
like,
I was about to say.
you
Yep.
know,
I totally agree.
add something with the food or something like that.
Yeah, let your voice be heard, like letting people know like you're here, you want to be your authentic self, you
Hmm.
know?
Definitely.
So I didn't want to talk this entire time, but I really wanted to ask you all in the audience, like, what do you think your transferable skills are currently? So this is a two-part question, but what do you think your transferable skills are?
I like to say I think a transferable skill for me that has improved over time has always been interacting with people, but now to the level of like public speaking slash presenting.
Hmm.
Nothing wasn't necessarily my thing. I always like to be in the background, like, okay, well, let me
Yeah.
like put the thing together and y'all just go and do. Now it's like, okay, well, Isa, what do you got to say? And I was like, okay,
Hmm.
put on the spot here. That's happened enough times. I'll learn that I need to improve it. And so
Yeah.
here we are today.
Right. No, and you've been doing an excellent job because I can definitely co-sign that you have always been doing your thing in the background, even with Able.
Yes.
But just seeing you, with these events that I've been able to be a part of,
Hmm.
like you really, really do the public speaking thing very well. You're able to come off the top, like off the dome very quickly. And that's important. It's a
Yeah.
great skill to have.
You gotta get an answer. You gotta just not make up something, but you just gotta, like you said, be in it. I think being
Yeah.
present a lot. I've been
Mm,
focusing on that these last 2 years has really helped.
nice.
Especially with Zoom, you kind of have to, like, you're on a camera, you're smiling the whole time. So I gotta be in the
Mm.
conversation versus in person. Ironically enough, you cannot really be there. You could be, focusing on someone back behind the person or eating and
That's real.
snacking or whatever. So it has being present has been immensely helpful for me. Um, what are some skills that you've improved on?
Yeah. So, in terms of skills that I've improved on, public speaking is one of them too. I joined the Toastmasters chapter here at Amazon in the HQ2 area, so
Huh?
the DMV. So, public speaking is something that I've been really like trying to focus on.
Mhm.
Just again, being able to moderate and
Yes.
talk to people, not using a bunch of filler words, but really being present and being
Mhm.
able to hear, okay, so they just said this. How can I ask, like, what's the follow up going to be? So
Right.
that's something that I've been really, really cognizant about improving. Another skill that I am working to improve is being able to dive deep. I have always been because I'm a journalism major, so I've always had to do research, but being able to actually synthesize research and create actionable like things to do, that's something that I've been working on. Really trying to understand, what is this actually saying to me, and what can I take back to improve the business.
What
So
next,
those are
right?
two
Yeah.
things. Yeah. So those are two things that I'm really looking to improve upon.
And okay, we have a comment here I would like to show. So I would say some of my transferable skills are research, legal and otherwise, critical thinking, and advocacy skills.
Mm.
Public speaking is definitely something that I need to work on as well. It keeps going. Oh no, that's the comment.
Yep,
So
that's it.
thank you, Cicely, for adding that. Yes, I agree. Public speaking. I think everybody needs to work on public speaking.
Look,
That's just something you just got to do
Toastmasters.
nowadays. Yes, Toastmasters.
Toastmasters.
I missed out. I think I was doing too much to do Toastmasters at the time, so I had to
Yeah.
find a local chapter.
Look,
Yeah,
I was in Toastmasters at Oracle too, but I rarely did speeches. Like
right.
here, I'm serious about my journey. So I'm going through the presentation mastery pathway with Toastmasters currently. So Cicely, definitely look in to Toastmasters if you're familiar with it, or even if you're not. Also, I love that you said advocacy
Mhm.
is a transferable skill, or is a skill that you have, because again, that's really important. It's extremely important.
Definitely. And I'm actually going to drop in the chat for you, Cicely, Toastmasters, for your local chapter.
Hmm.
They are all around the world, I believe, right? They're just
Yeah, it's
it's a
global.
pretty huge
Yeah.
organization, and you actually are if you are at a company that supports Toastmasters, they might have their own chapter there as well.
Yep.
So you can definitely
Yep.
check
So
that
you
out.
might get your membership and stuff paid for. So
Pay for
definitely look into that.
it. Definitely. Well, thank you for that. So your career, all right, with the transitions. Now we want to dive into a little bit more about yourself in terms of your career path. Can you tell us how you got to your spot at Amazon and all the other things that you're doing now?
Yeah, so like I said, my journey's been pretty unique. I got my degree in broadcast journalism from UNC. I am a Tar Heel. And like I said, I'm getting my MED currently in curriculum and instruction. So, how did I get to that point? Um, I was not even looking at tech. I don't think I really considered tech at all in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
But I just realized that I didn't want to be a broadcaster. This was in the day and age of Michael Brown.
Yes.
And honestly, I was extremely disappointed in the way that mainstream media was handling
Mm-hmm.
this case. So I just, plus, I realized that I did not want to have to go to some small town and work my way up that market that a lot of people end up having to do. I honestly did not want to have to put that type of work in. Um, so I literally got hired at Oracle 2 weeks before graduation. They came and did the career fair thing for a few weeks. I had a few rounds of interviews. I actually still know that recruiter that I spoke with, that I was recruited by, and she's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
She's still doing her thing. She's climbing the ranks at Oracle still too. So it's actually amazing to see. But that's how I got into tech. I have sales experience. Really randomly, I was selling New York Times subscriptions
I
to
can see you doing
people.
that. I can see you doing that.
I was selling New York Times subscriptions to people in the journalism school, real random. And I was part of another like type of company like that. I forgot what I was
Right.
doing with that, but they saw that I had a little bit of sales background.
Mm-hmm.
They saw like that I was coming from a revered institution, and they're like, you know what? Let's hire her and let's put her in Oracle Direct. I actually really wish that I would have started out as a BBC or BDC instead of OD at Oracle. I feel like I probably would have had a better go at it. But I realized, so again, I'll talk to you about my first time role. So I started as an ERP or an enterprise Whew.
Resource plan. No,
Yes, resource
enterprise.
planning. Thank you. Yeah, yep, you're right.
Yes.
Yep. I forgot the acronym. An ERP
There's so
account,
many. There's so
right?
many
And they're different with every like company.
company that you go over to. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started off as an ERP account rep. I was covering the East Coast territory. I was doing oil and gas. I was doing healthcare, and I was doing higher education, trying to convince people to look at the cloud. And I don't know if you know. I mean, it's 2022 now, so people are a lot more open. But back in 2015, when the cloud was still extremely new, trying to convince healthcare and higher ed was very difficult. So I had a difficult time. And I just realized I didn't enjoy it. I started to enjoy my role with Able
Right.
as a communications co-lead more than the job I was being paid for. So that's when I knew, maybe sales is not for me. But the funny thing is, when I left Oracle, I went to a startup doing sales. So that was no better.
Sometimes you just got to just keep working towards something in order
Yeah.
to make the next moves. It's like a kind of like a filler, I don't want to call it that because all roles are respectable, based on what they
Yeah,
are,
yeah,
startup
yeah.
or not. But it's just
Mhm.
that was your path. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, the startup wasn't a great experience for me. After that experience, I was unemployed for a few months. I was trying to figure out how to get back into tech the way that I wanted to. I was starting to look for marketing jobs, but I realized that the resume that I had didn't really scream marketing. So I realized that no one was really looking to hire me for the types of jobs that I wanted. So I did a complete pivot. And that's how I found sales enablement. So if you're unfamiliar with what sales enablement is, it's basically the pre-sales journey. I was creating assets and training guides and things for inside sales reps to help them sell the products. So I found a lot of joy in doing these types of roles because I was able to use my creative background. I was able to use my writing background, and I was able to talk like one to one. Like I was basically the voice of the sales rep, I guess, in that last role. I was going to them, asking them questions. Hey, what types of trainings would you like to see? Like, what is going to keep you engaged? I was able to create contests. Like, I really, really enjoyed my time at Lenovo. And I had a great manager. So he really David Harris, he was amazing. I think he's still at Lenovo. He gave me a ton of autonomy in my role, and that is important. That is so important for a lot of people. So
It could be that one person. It could be that one manager that literally changes your whole experience, good or
exactly.
bad, or no experience at all. You can have no manager
Well,
sometimes. It happens sometimes the way the
that is
organization
the
is
truth.
built, but that literally can be the determinant of where, if you decide to stay, if you decide to
Yep.
leave, you decide to excel in that role,
Yeah.
because based on how your manager, leads that position, that's all you know that they're the go-to, right?
Yes. Yes.
And even on your experience, I was in another panel discussion, and we were talking about um, when it's time to leave. I mean, some roles, if you know that you like it and you want to stay in it, you can definitely do all the things to do that. But it's don't be ashamed to leave. It's not like quitting. I mean, you have to use the word quit, or you decide to step down, or whatever you want to call it.
Pivot.
Yeah. Pivot's a good word,
Pivot.
but if it's not serving you and you're dragging yourself to work every day and you're not giving your all, then it's hurting the company, and then it's hurting you because you're forcing yourself to do that.
Look, and you always need to put yourself first. Let me
Yeah.
be very clear with that, because these companies, like, you leave, they're going to hire someone in your stead like very quickly. So
Right.
I don't want to say don't be loyal to these companies, but you really need to be loyal to you, because you know you.
Right.
And I wanted to touch on that a little bit more. I love our people. I love our people, especially the older ones, but some of them really think that we're just supposed to stay in these jobs and be
Forever.
happy with the salary that we have, not negotiate anything, like just be happy that they're hiring you. And
Mm-hmm.
for a few years, like I think I didn't start negotiating my salary until my third role. I didn't negotiate at Lenovo. I negotiated my salary, I think, at Bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they're okay with telling you, just be glad that, they're offering you this role. They want you. What more do you need?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the truth, the way, or the light.
Right.
So please, please, like I'm like, don't, you, if the
Mm-hmm.
role isn't serving you, if the company isn't serving you, don't feel locked in.
Right.
I will say don't quit your job before you have something lined up, because
Yeah.
that'll cause a lot of stress, undue stress. But as soon as you feel like this isn't serving you, refresh that resume and start looking.
Yeah, definitely. And you might find something that you didn't know existed before, because you're forced at that point to open your mind and see what else is outside of what you're doing. And even
Exactly.
with your resume, we can speak towards that. I know some automates that I work with, it's like they have a resume because they have an existing, career path in X,
Mhm.
Y, and Z industry, but they're wanting to move into tech. And they're like, okay, well, how does that apply? My first answer is, well, tech applies to everything nowadays.
Yep.
So that's something you can always, and on top of that, they're taking courses for whatever area they want to pursue. But you can always go into the past roles or your current roles, and you can change it based on, like you say, your transferable skills. Look
Mhm.
at what that job is asking. I'm not saying copy. Some people actually told
No,
me
but
copy and
no,
paste the
but
job
really,
description onto your resume,
no,
but no,
you
like
need to have no with okay. So
have the
with the
wording that's
system,
matching.
right? Exactly. Like
Mhm.
yes, Issa, you're absolutely right. You need, if you're trying to transfer into like a tech role, yes, those transferable skills are important. Go to that job rec, look at the types of things that they're saying that you're going to be doing or that you need to do, and
Mhm.
figure out how does that apply to something I've already done. Like
Mhm.
how does it apply to what you've already done? Because 9 times out of 10 you've probably done it. You
Mhm.
just have to be able to speak to it and
Yeah.
put numbers behind it,
Right.
because people seeing the ROI and the impact that you've done and created in your role is super important, and
Right.
something that you'll be able to talk to.
And that'll stand out. Adding numbers anywhere you can will stand out versus a long explanation of some project that you did. Like, okay,
Yeah,
what was the end of it? Because
don't use vague explanations, because
yeah.
9 times out of 10 they'll see through it. And yeah, so like
Yeah.
don't be vague.
So definitely, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Sexy. So, what do you like about your current role in technology?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm not no longer on the AWS side of the house, but I am working on the retail side of Amazon now with our seller partners. But what I love about my role is honestly the impact that I know that I'm going to make, is just really important. Like I said earlier, I am very purpose driven. So anytime I feel like I'm not making an impact in the work that I'm being asked to do or the tasks that I'm taking on, it it takes a hit to my morale,
Mhm.
honestly and truly. So making an impact is really important to me. Being able to work with Black seller partners, that is my target audience in my current role. I'm working with the Black Business Accelerator team. They're all amazing. They are like really working hard to make sure that this is the experience that they want the sellers to have. So that's really important to me. And also, um, I know I'm trying to get promoted in the next year or two, preferably a year.
You are going
So
to get promoted.
I'm,
You're speaking into
I'm,
existence.
and
You
I
are
have
getting
multiple
promoted.
times. But what is important to me in this role is that I own strategy and that I take ownership in creating programs that are going to be sustainable and scalable. So that's what I'm excited about, because we're really building a lot of things from scratch. And then lastly, creating think big ideas and connecting other people to other like people that I have in my network.
That's awesome. And so, part of the your goal that you have for next, within the next year by getting promoted, was that something that you went into this role thinking like, okay, like I kind of have like some people go into roles thinking I kind of want to get promoted within a year when I start and I want to move to the next role, or is it something that was really started from you enjoying what you do and then realize, you know what, I can take this up a notch. Kind of how did you
Yeah.
put this time frame next to your goal?
I was really intentional. Okay, so I've been at Amazon for 15 months. So I left my role at AWS in November. So when I was having my informational sessions and talking to the manager, my current hiring manager, I let him know very early on that I want to get promoted. That is my goal. That is my goal for this year. How are we going to get me there?
Mm-hmm.
And I have had some my management team is amazing. They are true advocates
Mm-hmm.
for me and for the work that I'm trying to do. So it's been really easy to get outlines of what it is that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
They're making sure that I get visibility to the people I need to be getting visibility to.
Right.
So again, like, you have to own your own professional development. Like, they're really big on that at Amazon. And I think that everyone should, have that mentality.
Uh-huh.
You have to be able to ask questions. You have to be able to put yourself out there in an intentional way,
Mm-hmm.
because, people want to help, but people also want to know that you have a plan for yourself, and they want to understand, how do you want me to plug into this?
Right.
And again, like, that's kind of going to the whole mentor versus sponsor type of
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Um, so yeah, I was very intentional, and I have one-on-ones with my manager every week.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about, what I'm doing, what if I need to add something to my plate, if I need to, like, be, more crisp with something. Like, I have that relationship with my manager that
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be straight up with me, and
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. So yes.
That's good. And so when you were, creating this, presentation on the back end and you're thinking about the things that you like, how did you narrow it down to these things? Is this something that has some of your favorites been consistent, or has it kind of either based on the role, or have you developed new favorites on the reason why you like to work in tech?
Yeah, so I think I have some overarching, but then
Mm-hmm.
I do think that a lot of this stuff is role specific.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. So overarching, as I've mentioned, like, I want to make sure that I'm being an advocate for Black people first, and then
Mm-hmm.
people of color, and women, after. But, like, or not after, because intersectionality. But anyway,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. But that that is definitely carried. Honestly, it's been there from the jump. Like, I saw it at Oracle, like, me
Yeah.
getting into Able and wanting to create that newsletter and bring more of us together, and
Mm-hmm.
more of us, like, understanding what other hubs are doing. Like, that was, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've been wanting to do, like, be a conduit and bring people together for quite some time. So that is definitely an overarching. And I think that there's a lot of that in tech because there's so few of us. So we
Mm-hmm.
want to feel like this camaraderie. We want to feel this connectedness with other
Mm-hmm.
people that look like us, that identify the same way as us. Let's see. Sorry, can you repeat the question one more time? I don't
No,
want
no,
to.
I'll just ask in terms of when you were deciding on what you liked, or what are some of the favorite things you like about not only working in your current role, but then just in general, your roles up to this point. Have there been some, like you said, overarching things, or has there been some things that you learned to like, or that you learned, learned to like is a good way of saying it.
Yeah, so that's a great segue. So I told you all that I'm getting my MED in curriculum and instruction, and
Mm-hmm.
that was because I learned to love sales enablement, training adult learners, using my post production skills with, like, Adobe Articulate 360, like, using those tools and those programs to create things, and take subject matters and, like, break it all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I learned to love and I got really good at. So I doubled down and was
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? I need to get the foundations of adult learning down, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be doing this for a while. So I want to, I want to perfect this skill.
Mm-hmm.
So sales enablement became something that I loved. Um, working with different people, different audiences, because when I was at AWS, I was working with a more technical audience. I was working with the solutions architects, so
Right.
creating trainings for them.
Uh-huh.
So that's like a whole different ballgame, as you can imagine. So
Right, right.
um,
Who's really training who here?
no, but for real, they were definitely the subject matter experts, not me. so, so yeah, like because I loved what I was doing in tech, I
Mhm.
was able to again flex that learn and be curious muscle and really double down and get more knowledge.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Hmm.
And so, as far as those who are interested in learning and development, what are some? Obviously, we have the point two on the screen. But what are some things that you're really focusing on, and how can they really add that to what they're already might be already doing
Hmm.
into their existing
So
life?
yeah, absolutely. So honestly, the biggest thing is that in L&D, you're going to be a project manager. So if you have project management experience, that's amazing. I feel like everyone has project management experience. Um, if you use tools, if you have a goal and you've got goals like smaller milestones broken down,
Mhm.
that's project management. You can use tools like Asana.
Mhm.
Um, what was it? What was the other one? There's another tool, Airtable. Like
Uh-huh.
putting your stuff in, like things like that. Being able to show that you can really drill down into a goal and
Mhm.
break out everything that is needed in terms of like uh, achieving that goal.
Mhm.
That's project management for you. So that's a big thing. Another thing is, I believe having a learner centric approach is very important. So, meeting the learners where they're at,
Mhm.
understanding what those gaps are, understanding what the ROI would
Mhm.
be to you creating training for them, as well as understanding what the performance
Mhm.
is going to look like after the training. Like
Mhm.
you're training people to have your training in order to get a different result, and usually that different result is a performance improvement, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's really important. um data is your friend. Definitely data is your friend. Like you can't go into anything without data, and
You
data
can't
can
argue with
be
the numbers.
exactly, data can be numbers, data can be anecdotal
Mhm.
tidbits. So and I think that goes hand in hand with learner centric approach.
Mhm.
Like you're going to get data from your learners, so that's really important. um Innovate often. So innovate and iterate often.
Okay.
So,
I like that.
keeping abreast of trends, being
Yes.
able to, plug and play. Like, if you see, like TikTok, being able to use like a platform, like a social media platform, in order to create a learning, that's really dope. Like, that's something, again, that's meeting learners where they're at.
Mhm.
Um, so, that's something to think about as well. And then lastly, which is also really important for L&D, is figure out your instructional design process. There are a ton out there, both proven and not so proven, but figuring out what works for you and iterating on it and creating um, like a shorter process or an expedited process is really
Uh-huh.
going to serve you well in the space.
So your path into tech, it went from sales, basically right into learning and development. Well, sales
Mhm.
enablement, which yeah, sales
Yeah,
and then
those
learning and
enablement.
development based on your
Mhm.
experience that you had with sales, ironically enough. So
Yeah.
and then now you're on the other side with the vendors. Is that would
Mhm.
that still qualify under learning and development?
Not quite, but I am working with our L&D team,
Uh-huh.
more so for internal reasons. Like, I'm going to be helping do like a train the trainer type thing. So more so like helping train our employees, but
Okay.
that's still like a side project. That's not like what I'm doing for the org. Um, but I really told myself, so I left sales enablement and L&D
Mm-hmm.
because I'm getting my master's. And so I really want to focus on the skills that I'm developing so
Mm-hmm.
that when I come back into L&D, like I'm going to be able to hit the ground running. Plus, I'm going to
Right.
be able to, ask for more money because I have my master's now.
I was about to say,
But
get that up.
but you got to make yourself more competitive. Um,
Right, right.
but no,
So
I'm
how
really looking forward to that. Go ahead.
So you answered two of my questions I was going to ask in terms of, okay, now how are
Mhm.
you going to implement this master's that you're getting, because you're going back to L&D. So that makes
Yes.
total sense, because now that you gain the experience, like the ground experience, doing it, as they say, do it dirty first and then come back and clean it up. Now you're realizing, okay, I really like doing this. I've
Mhm.
had experience in sales. Now I'm doing sales enablement, which is helping that aspect that I did in sales. Now I really want to focus on that. Let's go and master in it, and let's
Mhm.
get all the other tools and
Yeah.
anything that you need in order to
Mechanisms on
be
that.
an
Yeah.
expert in that, and come back and hit that sales enablement portion again, except at at tenfold, right?
Exactly. Yes. And um again, I know the team that I would love to be on. But basically when I finish my master's and when I get back into L&D, I really want to be in a space where I'm very similar to what I'm helping do with AUTMHQ,
Mm-hmm.
is helping to upskill Black and brown people,
Mm-hmm.
helping to upskill like veterans, helping to upskill
Mm-hmm.
underserved or underrepresented communities
Right.
trying to get into tech. Like
Right.
there's a role for me that I'm speaking to is in existence. I know the team, but and I'm keeping that network open because I let them know, like, I want to be on this team. I'm doing this right now, but trust and
Mm-hmm.
believe I'm about to run the block. Like I'm about
Right.
to circle the block. So yeah.
Just tell them, go ahead and keep it open for you, and just wait till you get done.
Helping
Just wait till you
so.
get done with these classes.
Right.
So what about for those who are maybe you didn't decide to go through the college route? Would you recommend maybe just if they have a similar goal or similar aspirations as you in terms of really perfecting their skill set and expertise in a certain area, but they don't want to go the college route?
Yeah.
Did you do anything outside of your master's, anything before you decided to prepare for your master's in terms of courses or maybe things you did on the side to help you with your sales enablement role or just leadership role, learning and development in general?
So I have a funny story about this, and one that at the time I was offended, but I realized that I should not have been offended by the suggestion back then.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was first deciding to get my master's and pursue my master's in L&D,
Uh-huh.
I went to someone that I trusted and asked them for a recommendation.
Uh-huh.
Um, and they told me they didn't feel comfortable giving me a recommendation because they hadn't known me that long.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they felt like I would be better suited getting certifications.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I really felt slighted
Mm-hmm.
because I'm telling you, hey, I'm pursuing this, and you're telling me to go this route. Like, I felt like it was an undercut.
Yeah.
And now, like, after I've like obviously like distanced myself from the situation and really thought about it, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a slight. They really wanted me to be able to get up to speed quicker because
Right.
obviously if you're doing certifications, those are at a different pace usually than
Right.
a 2-year degree would be.
Right.
Um, but I do suggest looking at certifications, um, going to conferences. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can usually I mean, if you're not like a member, usually you
Mm-hmm.
do have to pay more.
Mm-hmm.
But I would still, go sit in. There have been a lot of virtual conferences lately.
Yeah.
I feel like people are not doing virtual as much now, but at the time, there were a ton of virtual conferences with little to no cost. So yeah.
I agree. And it's like for those who are going through the program right now, for example, if they're doing like UX UI design or anything under web design or anything related to data analytics,
Mhm.
you're right in terms of gaining that extra area of knowledge, even if they already have some kind of experience, like a
Yeah.
3-month boot camp, or they happen to be in a role that had them using some of the same software tools,
Mhm.
right? Getting that certification further cements that
I'm
knowledge that you
serious.
have, because somebody can see, a recruiter only has like a couple of minutes to look at a resume, maybe
Yeah.
seconds. And so
Yeah.
when they're looking at your resume and they see, okay, well, she helped the company by doing 100% dollar, $100 here,
Mhm.
increases by 100%, and she has a certification, boom, 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 those things line up. and may speak a little bit, sometimes may speak louder than
Yeah.
if you weren't able to necessarily articulate some of the roles
Yeah.
that you did in the past, right? So
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. And then even on the part you said innovate often, you know, with the way technology changes, I'm sorry, so I do not like mascara. Even when technology changes, you kind of have to keep changing the process to stay updated. I like your example with the TikTok. That was something, you know, people using social media platforms to do lessons on how to create an Excel spreadsheet. I mean, that's the most boring
Yeah.
topic, but
Look,
you throw it on TikTok.
Excel be kicking people's behinds, okay? Because
Right.
Excel, there's so much.
It's so much, but
Excel's a mystery to me still. I just learned how to do pivot tables.
okay,
Still don't understand.
we're not gonna comment on that. But no, I'm just kidding. No, I get the pivot table is not something that a person would use commonly that, you know, will go in. So I definitely understand. But I've seen some very interesting videos of people using ways to make tech more interesting. And this is actually, you know, I'm slightly jealous because I'm not that old and I wasn't in school that much long ago. But between the time I graduated and now, the changes in the programs and the emphasis on, you know, Black and Hispanic and everything has just accelerated so quickly, and they've been provided with so many different opportunities that you can't help but take advantage of them and use them. One of those being the way social media and technology works, you know, in tandem. So I definitely, you know, then innovate often. You're gonna have to keep doing that because that's the way tech works.
Literally, like
We're
tech. I
getting it
think
now.
I said this the other night. Like tech is not stagnant. It's not a stagnant industry, and it will literally never be stagnant. So yeah, you really have to be able to, you know, move with the times or get left behind.
Get in early.
So yeah.
Definitely. I definitely agree. I know I want to keep talking. We can keep talking.
Right.
We don't have time left, but I want to see in the chat if anybody had any questions for Tyler. She's, you know, a wealth of knowledge on her experience. And, you know, something might have resonated with you as well in your own experience. I know some things you're reminding me of my own right now as we're talking. So I did really enjoy the time talking together. But as far as keeping in contact with you, you know, we have your LinkedIn. It's just easy. Go on LinkedIn and type in Tyler J. Rouse, and then the email, tylerjrouse@gmail.com. So it's pretty set there. And I can also add that to the chat. But yeah, any other questions? Anybody else have any comments? Anything else that you would like to just throw your 2 cents on? Thank you, Bree. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's in the comments. So thanks for joining. And you know what? Even with some of the things you were saying, I'm just now like, you know, some thoughts are coming to me again.
Yeah.
When it comes to moving and changing your career, I'm going to go back on the point where we were talking about, you know, you might not want to be somewhere, you know, and you might not see yourself doing that role any longer. But you find yourself find myself in the same thing. You know, you like the job outside of your desk job more than the job that they, you know, have you there for. A lot of times you're stuck on, okay, then when does it make sense to transition out of that?
Yeah.
And some people are, you know, they hesitate to do that because you got the money on the line, you got all the different benefits, you got all these things that are set that are fine. It's just you just don't like the job, you know, or maybe you just learned that this is just not the best fit for you. Could you speak on a little bit kind of when you were deciding when to jump ship? Like what really made you, okay, you know what, I'm done, I gotta go? What made you really like make that move?
Absolutely. And I've jumped ship a lot. So again, like I said with Oracle, like I started to enjoy the extracurricular more than the actual role. I didn't want to go into work to do account management stuff. Like I literally hated it. I started to hate it because I wasn't getting anywhere. And I just, yeah. So the question is, how did I decide to transition and how did I know?
What was that needle that broke the camel's back, or whatever the saying is?
I think for every time that not every time, for 2 of the times I left a role, and not just a job, but a role, was because of management. I think that management is very important. Like having good managers is important. like you touched on, a manager will make or break you. You might love the role, but if you have a manager that you just really don't click with and that they don't advocate for you, it can be hard. It can be hard. Also, I think for me, if I don't feel like the role that I'm in
Mm-hmm.
is being impactful, if the work that I'm doing is not impacting the audience,
Mm-hmm.
that again, like my morale is like real low. So I'm like looking for an exit. I
Right.
will try to
Mm-hmm.
like pivot and figure out like how can I make this impactful, but there's only but so much you can do
Mm-hmm.
that's in the scope of your role, you know?
Yeah.
So in terms of, I will say, and something that I love about Amazon is that they make it clear to you that the world is your oyster here. Like once you've been in a role for a certain amount of time, and if you don't feel like it's the fit that you want, you can start looking for something else inside the company,
Right.
but just be transparent with your management and
Yes.
make sure that you're doing it the right way, going about it the right way. And, I had that experience. My manager was very supportive of me looking for something else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I started having those informational sessions. So that's something else you should think about doing is once you don't know, or once you know that what you're doing is not what you want,
Mm-hmm.
start thinking of like ideas of what you would want to go into. And that
Mm-hmm.
could be you looking at your own internal job board. That could be you looking at other job boards. Just don't do that at your current role, current job. You don't want you
Do
getting
that at home.
and don't
On
do
your
that on
phone. Do not do that
your
on the company computer on their intranet.
yes. Look, so my mom used to get on me about that. She's like, "Why are you doing that on your work laptop?" And I'm just like, I was real naive and lackadaisical about it, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that aside,
And we
I
do have
think
a comment. Yes,
yeah,
Portia, she was sharing that she finds it hard to pivot when the company is keeping you in just one role with no intention to train further. That's a good point. Sometimes training, it's like, okay, well, we kind of already went over that before. I don't know if we're just doing continuous conversations on some of the same topics, but we're not progressing or moving
yeah.
and adding knowledge to that, that person or that employee in that role. I
So
definitely agree.
my question is like, are you talking to your management about your intentions? Um, I wonder that, Portia.
Yeah. So, Portia, if you want to, you can definitely chime in the chat. But a way Tyler is saying you might want to approach it is say, hey, straight up to your manager, I feel like I've covered X, Y, Z topics enough.
Yeah.
I'm either have some ideas, I'm looking to do X, A, B, and C, or would it be possible or would this be, relevant if we talked about 1, 2, and 3? Maybe like, maybe come to them with some information
Yeah.
that way they show that you're already engaged, you're already really serious about moving
Yes.
forward versus relying on them, because you
Yep.
might get stuck back in the same scenario if you ask them, okay, well then what's next, because they'll be like, well,
Yeah. Again, look, you got to own your own professional development because again, like the companies, yes, they should want to retain talent, but some people, some companies don't put like a huge emphasis on that,
Mhm.
unfortunately. So if you're finding that, you're exhausting your avenues, you're talking to management and they're still not doing, what it is that you need from them, then I would definitely start looking. Don't leave until you have something lined up, but I'll definitely look.
Yeah, 'cause that's just added stress that nobody wants.
Yeah.
The
It's
hard way.
like, especially with the pandemic, like people are really out here, um, you know, depressed over the jobs that they have. And I mean,
Mhm.
you don't want that. Like you want to feel like you're valued at the company that you're at. You're valued for the work that you're contributing to.
Correct.
So, you know, go where you're valued.
No, I definitely going to share again on the screen ways for people to contact you. So I definitely think, some conversations can definitely, if they're experiencing this right now,
Yeah.
you can dive into that conversation a little bit more. And I'm also going to type inside the chat here. I'm glad I saw your name again, Tyler J.A. Rouse, because I
Yeah.
messed up.
Yeah.
In the comments, if you have that, if you haven't already gone to her page already, to just check out her LinkedIn page. So, thanks again for joining us. This has been a really
Thank you,
just
Issa.
straightforward conversations. A lot of times
Mm.
it's easy to talk to people you already know, but it's also easy to talk to somebody, you know, who just has a very interesting background. And a lot of times I like to go in these conversations blind because it causes me
Mhm.
to ask questions that I probably
Mhm.
wouldn't have thought of if I knew exactly what we were going to talk about.
Mhm.
So I appreciate the time we've spent. Um, Check Tyler out on LinkedIn,
Yes.
linkedin.com/Tyler J. Rouse. And then her email address is tylerjarouse@gmail.com.
Yeah, that JA will slip people up. But yes, please
Yes,
feel free to hit me up. And I will definitely connect with everyone on LinkedIn.
definitely. Well, thank you everyone for joining. And don't forget, Autumn HQ. Don't go to our website. Go to follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. And check out our newsletter for more events that are coming up. We actually have our next event, which will be on March 3rd. I think that is it's March 3rd, and we're going to be discussing a new program we're adding to our curriculum from Dev 10. So if you're definitely interested in, coding and you like Java, this will be a good conversation for you. So thanks for joining us, those who are on the live and the chats. And
Thank
Tyler,
you.
thanks for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.